Hey guys, and welcome to another episode here on Sasquatch Theory. In this video, we have Steve from Minnesota, and he wanted to share the Bigfoot encounter that he had years ago while hiking in a forested area with one of his friends. Steve claims the creature was about 30 feet away, and it was leaning up against a tree. The creature hit the tree with its hand in order to spook the kids away, and it appeared to be very territorial as it seemed to be annoyed by the boys' presence in the forest. Minnesota is an outdoorsman's paradise, and there is a ton of wildlife and lakes in the area that hold a lot of fish. If you enjoy listening to Bigfoot encounters, please like and subscribe. And if you have a Bigfoot encounter that you would like to share with me here on the channel, please contact me sometime by email. Alright guys, with all that being said, let's dive straight into this next Bigfoot interview from the state of Minnesota here on Sasquatch Theory. Alright Steve, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thanks.
Good to hear. Steve, you had an encounter in Minnesota. If you would, tell me a little bit about yourself, kind of where this happened, and your Bigfoot encounter from the very beginning, please.
Okay, well, thanks for the opportunity to be on the show. My name's Steve. I was born and raised in Minnesota in the suburban Twin Cities area. I'm 57 years old. I've been married for almost 34 years, have two grown sons. So my story, I don't consider it to be, that, certainly not as, extensive or exciting as so many others that I listen to. But anyway, so it was way back in 1987, when I believe I was 20 years old, where I was working at the time. Me and this, one guy had become work buddies, and after some time, he was talking about how he, likes to go out of town up to his older cousin's cabin up in northern Minnesota. And so we started, he would talk about it, and he was saying we had to do a weekend trip up there sometime, do some hiking and fishing and whatnot. And so we talked about it for probably 8-9 months. Finally, we did it. We made a plan, and we took off on Friday night, right from work. I had to go to a local store and get some gear because I didn't have any. I'm a suburban boy. I didn't grow up on land or hunting or any of those kinds of things, and so I had to get like a sleeping bag and some boots, and I don't remember what else. Again, it's so long ago for me. And we hit the road, and we got up, and we stayed overnight in Duluth, which was only about 2.5-3 hours north of where we lived in the Twin Cities area. Spent the night in Duluth, and then we got up really early the next morning, and I don't think, for some reason, I had a lot of trouble sleeping that night. So as we hit the road, he was driving, so I just didn't have to do anything, just sit there and ride along. And we started heading north. At some point, I fell asleep again because I was really tired, and then I remember waking up, and we were off of the main highway, and we were going down some kind of just a 2-lane road into a more forested area. And I remember we pulled into a place that it wasn't really like a parking lot or a place where like national parks have parking for people that are going in to hike or what have you. It was almost more like just sort of a turnaround maybe for commercial vehicles, that work on the power or something like that. And so we parked there. I remember him saying that he'd been there once before, and it was, a neat hiking area. So he wanted to do some hiking before we got to up to his cousin's cabin. And once, so we got out, got, our stuff on, and we just started walking. We started walking into the forest, and I wish that I knew where it was exactly, because by the time I woke up, we were off the highway and everything. But anyway, it was pretty exciting for me because I don't think I'd ever done anything like this in, my 20 years. I mean, I'd been in the woods before, but never had been to this part of the state. And we started walking, and, and there really wasn't that much of a path or anything, but it started to get kind of hilly. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but we started heading up this hill, the side of this hill, and it was getting steeper and steeper. I don't know how exactly. At some point, we were both just kind of. It was steep enough to where we were having to kind of bear crawl a little bit, use our hands. And one thing I didn't mention is it was the previous day was beautiful. This particular day, this clouds had just rollen in. It was just a gray mid-May day, and it was up there. It was colder. It was probably in the 50s, and windy, really, really windy, gray day. Fortunately, it wasn't raining. We didn't know if we were going to get rained on out there or not. So anyway, we're heading up this hill, and as we're cresting the top of it, we could see that there was another somewhat higher hill beyond it. And so this was just kind of choppy, little choppy area, with a lot of trees and stuff. And as we're cresting this hill, we both, we're just right alongside each other going up the hill. And we kind of looked at each other because we started to smell some kind of just a foul odor. And now we hadn't, I had heard of Bigfoot before, as a kid. Thought it was kind of a cool idea. Watched a few programs and so forth, but neither one of us, Bigfoot was the furthest thing from either one of our minds. We never even talked about the subject, and I'm not sure how much of a subject it was back then. That was way before YouTube and everything. So anyway, just to kind of set that in place as well. And we smelled the smell, and we kind of looked at each other like, did you, make a smell or that sort of thing. Wind is blowing right down at us. And then we get to the top of the hill, and as soon as we look over it, and this is where it's kind of hard to verbally describe what happened, but we look over the side of the hill, and what we see, what I can say that my eyes immediately laid on were a probably 8 to 9 foot tall beast. It was kind of in between two trees. And I'm sorry that partially I've got getting over a cold, and I always feel a little jittery when I talk about this, which is very seldom. We're looking probably at this this Bigfoot. It was definitely not a bear. It is looking off away from us, but we're probably right at about his 4 o'clock, if that makes any sense. And what I see is these huge arms, and it probably, if I remember right, I wasn't able to see all the way to its feet, but just down to maybe just below the waist. I don't know what was in the way. I don't remember. But right as our heads came above the crest of the hill, just as it was reaching back, looking at something beyond the tree. And I think it's right or left hand, I don't remember anymore, reached back and, like you would knock on a door, rapped on this tree that it was kind of leaning up against. And the wind was quite strong. And as soon as its fist hit the tree, it turned and looked at us. And when I tell you that I know my life changed in an instant, because it was like it turned, seeing it, and then when it turned and you could see its eyes sort of lock on and focus in on us, and it almost had an expression like it was ticked off that it got kind of like snuck up on. We weren't out looking for this at all, but it could only have been, I would think, because of the direction the wind was blowing, and it was blowing really hard. And I just remember that the sense of the size of this individual and what it could do to us. It was the most terrifying feeling that I've ever felt in my entire life. And we immediately, it was like we more or less let go of the top of the hill and spun around and started running down that hill at a speed that I can't even tell you. It felt like my legs were coming out of the sockets. And we ran like we'd never ran before. And I remember turning around once and seeing the top of its head looking, and I didn't know if it was coming after us or not. But we kept going. I know I had lost control of my bladder, and I don't know if you wanted that in there or not, but we were probably only about a 10-15 minute walk from his truck, and we were still smelling that horrible, just awful odor. And we get back to the truck and jump in and take off out of there. The whole time fleeing it was a sense that we were running from an oncoming train that was going 100 miles an hour or something, and that we were about to get turned into a fine red mist, and so we're driving out of there. My buddy is driving and heads back on down the road we were on, and I don't remember exactly what it was that we were saying to each other. We were trying to catch our breath for probably 10 minutes. And you got to the main highway, that goes to the Twin Cities, and turned south. I mean, it was like we were just done for the weekend. We didn't even go on up to his cousin's cabin. It was like, we're done. We're going home. And neither of us even had to say it. And we drove home, and I, we talked about it some, but it was like, there was just such a sense of unbelievable surprise, because we never talked about it. Neither of us particularly knew whether we believed in Bigfoot or not, because he's been seen so seldomly. And I told my parents about it, not together because they're divorced, and they kind of had to take it. My dad and mom didn't respond exactly the same way, but they kind of had to take it as, okay, well, if you say so, and just kind of believed on faith, I guess. And aside from that, what happened at work was, my friend had told, I can't remember who it was, somebody in his family, and his one of his brothers who used to work at the warehouse that we worked at, still had a friend there. Then this word got out, and we were called the Bigfoot boys for, from then on. And the Bigfoot boys, chuckle, And so that was that's about the most that I can tell you, other than the after effects were, it was really traumatizing to me. If I could be on the other side, and be all those that are interested in Bigfoot, not interested in Bigfoot, but have never encountered one, I'd rather be there. I think it's intriguing, but for me, it's not whether, there's no question whether or not they exist. It's my world is, what part of my world is that there's absolutely no doubt that they exist. And I've never gone back up there hoping for a second helping. I've since I've been married, my in-laws have a cabin that's in a woody area, and we've been going up there for 34 years, never seen anything, never heard any knocks, no whoops, no footprints, no nothing. And I'm just fine with that. I'm not saying that I am certain that the particular individual that we encountered would have hurt us if we hadn't have run off. But the sight of it, and it was probably, a stone's throw away. I would say about 25, 30 feet. But just the intrusion of that upon the impression of this being upon my mind, um, in that manner was, it was just, it was absolutely terrifying. And I can believe that they're actually, for the most part, kind creatures, that maybe just like to mess with us sometimes or what have you. But at the time, it was, and just seeing all of the detail in just practically a 2-second glance, um, made a pretty powerful impression. Um, that's really, I don't know what else to tell you. Um, I don't think I skipped over any details. It, it was a long time ago, um, but
Okay, Steve.
but it's something I'll never forget.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely understand. If you would describe the features on the Bigfoot that you encountered, you said it was 9 feet tall. What did the head look like? What did its face look like? What color was it?
Sure. Well, best that I can remember, it had it did have, okay, so it was, um, black with some sort of orange reddish, uh, here and there, down part of its arms, and it had, I think they call it like a concave head, um, where it's almost kind of triangularish. Um, no hair on the face. I mean, it really looked. Sorry, hold on a second here. Sorry, an alarm started going off. It really, the face itself, the best that I can remember, or at least the way my brain processed it, uh, it looked pretty much like an ape, you might say, but um, certainly, had the forehead, the brows, not necessarily hair on the brows, but it looked, probably, something in between, apish and somewhat human, but not quite. Um, I would estimate it had to have been somewhere between 7.5 and 9 feet tall. Um, very large, long arms, and and extremely wide shoulders, not much of a neck at all, and it looked so incredibly powerful. Uh, just the thought of it, getting a hold of you is the most terrifying feeling that I have even to date. Um, I'm pretty sure that it was a male, but like again, I mostly saw it from, from a profile, and it was literally probably about a 2 or 3 second glance, and we fled.
Yeah, that does sound terrifying. What did the eyes look like? Were they jet black or could you see white?
Um, I I don't really remember seeing white so much, but it was, but they had, it was mostly a dark color. It was pretty far away to be able to get a real detailed on that. But the thing I remember most about the eyes was when it set eyes on us, and they kind of, focused, like a person turns and you kind of sneak up on them and they turn and look at you and like, oh, hey, you know, and and there was like expression, there was intelligence. I don't know to what degree, but it was definitely, definitely there. And but it seemed like it had more going on upstairs probably than just a regular primate. Um,
Yeah. So did you guys sneak up on the creature?
well, I mean, that is what happened in effect, but we had no idea what we were about to see. But there was the sense that it definitely thought that it was snuck up on. Um, because again, when our heads are looking over just coming up to look over, uh, to the next hill, is right as, it's, I think, I want to say it was its right fist came down. I always thought they used another branch when they do a tree knock, but this one used its fist the way that you would knock on a door, and it did that on the tree. I'm sorry, I'm going off of your question there, but um, um,
Did it sound
and
like a tree knock whenever it hit its fist up against the tree?
I remember hearing a sound. I couldn't anymore really describe. I mean, it definitely sounded like some kind of a clack or a knock. Um, you know, it was like anything, like my friend's voice or even the clack sound or even the smell for that matter was largely dissipated by the wind. It was blowing into our face. But yeah, yeah, definitely we're able to hear a knock.
Yeah. And do you think the creature naturally smells like that, or it produced this odor to possibly scare you guys off, to kind of warn you guys, I guess, in a sense?
um, I'm not really sure about that either. I don't know if they have glands or something that they can just release this pungent odor, or if they just don't, you know, um, get their bathing in, or what have you. My thought was that was, in fact, we didn't even really put the two things together probably until much later. That, oh, it must have been that thing that smelled. I wonder why it smells so bad. But then again, if you're covered with hair and um, it's probably gonna get that way. But I don't know. I don't claim to really have the answer on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And was it leaning up against the tree, or was it trying to hide behind the tree?
So it when we spotted it, it was, if you can picture um, yourself kind of leaning up against a tree that's just about as wide as you are, and maybe a little bit wider, and you're looking away off one side of the tree. I don't know at what. Maybe it was hearing things, but the direction was not clear because of the wind. But we're looking at about his 4 o'clock, and he was behind that tree. So we're looking mostly at his back, but a little bit of his side, and then he's looking off to the left of the tree, and then and that was the position he was in. And then when we saw him was right as he'd reached back already and whacked the tree with his fist, with just the way you'd knock on a door.
Yeah, that's interesting. And what do you think would have happened if you guys would have stuck around the area?
Oh, I don't know if I I mean I would rather believe that we wouldn't have necessarily been in physical danger. Um, but all I know is at the moment when we saw it, um, there's this panic, this fight or flight um, feeling that we both had, that we're no longer in a controlled environment where we can shut ourselves in away from danger, and that we're in the presence of something that is infinitely more powerful than we are, and that kind of like you'd probably feel very similar if you encountered um, a bear or something. It's just this type of fear that you want to escape, but you don't think you're going to get away. You think you're probably done. Um, and that was what that was like for me.
Yeah. And whenever you smelled the odor, did you get a sense that something was wrong? Like, could you feel like the hairs on the back of your neck standing up? Did you pick up on anything before encountering the creature?
Um, as we were coming up, it was when we were getting close to the top of the hill that we both smelled something, and we, thought maybe it was one or the other. And then right about that time was when we got to the top of the hill and just saw over the top of it. And it was a bit stronger, but our what our eyes were firing signal wise to our brain, or mine anyway, um, was a lot more powerful and distressing than what my nose was smelling, um, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So the creature was angry that you guys were in the area, right?
Yeah, I think there was sort of like if I could have read its mind, it 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 was thinking something along the lines of, "Oh, God dang it!" Well, actually, not exactly like that. Probably something worse, but sort of like, "How the hell did you, sneak up on me?" Or how did that, how did this happen? How did It's like it was pissed that it got snuck up on.
Yeah. It was annoyed.
Yeah, I would say it was at least annoyed.
Yeah. I wonder what the creature was up to. Like maybe it had a deer kill up there or something was going on and it didn't want you guys in the area.
Yeah, I I have no idea. I'm sorry to be so clueless on that, but yeah, I mean, from what I've learned since then, uh, it could have been, it might have been, may have somehow been picking up our scent, although again, we were completely downwind from him, and even though it was real hilly and everything, the wind was such that it would have probably been uh, easy to not detect something coming up on you, and as far as the Sasquatch goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And how did this encounter affect you later on? You mentioned it was traumatizing.
Yeah, um, yeah, I still feel it today. Um, it was just, um, I think there was just such a uh, I don't know, uh, maybe a brain chemical reaction or what. I'm not exactly sure, but um, I've had I don't remember exactly when I last had a nightmare about it, but I had nightmares um, for several years after that. Uh, Seeing them, being out in the woods, and all of a sudden there's one in front of me, having them come up from my basement, just my brain just kind of did a bunch of weird things after that. But yeah, I never went to like a counselor or anything like that, but um, I probably would have benefited if I had. But then again, what am I going to tell them? Well, I saw a Bigfoot and it scared the living, what out of me, and now I have nightmares. It's like, and that's kind of the other thing about it. I was fortunate that at the time I had my parents to tell, but um, and my friend Ross, he was the guy that I was with. You know, he felt even worse because there was really no one that he felt that he could tell that just to kind of get it off your chest in a way. And but I just kind of I guess over the years following that just kind of pushed it down and looking back on it now, because you hear of other people that have had these great experiences when they've seen it, and I'm like, um, boy, I wish I was you, or maybe was older, or maybe was more experienced being out in the wilderness than what I was, because as it stands, um, I mean, I'm kind of over it now, but for most of my life since then, I've wished that it didn't even happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why it's important to be informed about these creatures and to be aware that they're out there in case you run into one, because if you have no prior knowledge of their existence, it can really affect you mentally. And one question that I have for you is, have you had a supernatural or paranormal experience prior to this encounter or after?
No, um, I would say no. I have not. You hear a lot more about the paranormal and things like that. I've never considered this a paranormal experience. I mean, this thing was real. I mean, I could see it. Its fur blowing in the wind. I smelled it. I heard the knock. Didn't hear any other sound. No growl. No nothing else. Um, so it was a natural, as best as I know, a natural experience, but it was just very powerful.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And did you get the sense that there were more creatures around in the area?
Um, if knowing what I know now, um, I would have to say there probably must have been, but at the moment, I think in my mind, I didn't even think about whether there was more. I had no idea why it knocked on the tree, um, and or what it was looking at or for, because it was looking, into the forest, and I didn't know if it was smelling us, um, or if it was communicating with another one. To me, that one sort of makes more sense. And the we just got extremely, I don't want to say lucky necessarily, but to be coming up that. I'm sure he never hung out in that area again on a windy day. Put it that way.
Yeah. And you said
Yeah,
you
I'm
never
sorry.
returned to the area again?
No, no. It's just it. I just don't get around a whole lot, and particularly after that. I don't have any desire whatsoever to even take the chance of seeing one again. And I guess I know that I don't really need to fear the chances of me seeing another one are I figure pretty slim. But then again, um, we weren't even, you know Bigfoot was the furthest thing from our minds that day. Maybe that was why it happened. I don't know. But no, I don't. I work here, and all my family's here, and yeah, the wilderness now, I guess it kind of ruined it for me. So
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. And I mean, I think you'd be safe to go back out there into the woods, and the chances of seeing another one are pretty slim, but you just never know.
yeah, yeah, you just never know. I mean, I don't hunt or anything. I'm a pretty boring guy, as you can tell. Um, and when I even think about like going back to a place like that, there's just absolutely, I mean, everyone talks about how beautiful the forest is and that kind of thing, but it's, I don't know, it's just really weird. It's just so painted in my mind now, that there's just nothing in there that I care to see. Um,
Yeah. And what do you
Certainly
think?
not one of them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What do you think Bigfoot is?
Oh, I probably would fall, in line with what I don't I don't necessarily I mean I think it's some kind of undocumented um primate. I'm guessing. I don't feel that I have that much knowledge about it, but I know they're real. Like I said, I watch a lot. Your channel a lot, and I've watched others, and it's amazing to me, and I almost feel a sense of feel sort of apologetic toward all of these people that are certainly better people than I in terms of they're doctors and researchers and all that, and they've been studying and hoping, looking for an encounter. And here I had this encounter. It's like, if I could just give it to you, I'd I'm a giving guy when it would come to this. Not that I want people to experience it in a negative way like I did, but they may not experience it that same way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's either a blessing or a curse, depending on how you take it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Steven, I think that pretty well covers your encounter. And do you have anything else that you'd like to add? Any details that you forgot to mention?
Um, no, I really think we covered it pretty well, and your questions, kind of helped pull the rest of it out of there.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you for getting in contact with me and taking the time to share your encounter here on Sasquatch Theory. And I hope it helps somebody else who's had the same encounter in Minnesota or anywhere else in North America. But yeah, we're pretty much finished. So I appreciate everything you did. You did an excellent job at relaying the encounter. And yeah, if you see anything else in the future, certainly feel free to contact me.
Yeah, I definitely will, Miguel. Thanks.
All right, Steve. I hope this conversation helped out, and I really appreciate everything you did today.
All right. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Take care, my friend.
Bye.
Bye. Steve, thank you once again for taking the time to share your Bigfoot encounter with me here on Sasquatch Theory. I do believe the creature was being territorial, and it certainly did not want you boys in its territory. I wonder why though, because the creature could have easily walked away or just hid a little better. Maybe it had a mate nearby and possibly a little one. It could be possible there was something dangerous taking place in the woods and the creature was protecting you boys from getting hurt. Anyways, I appreciate everyone for tuning in today, and I want to give a special shout out to the channel members, the subscribers, and all the people who have helped me out in the past. If it wasn't for you guys, none of this would be possible, so thank you everyone. All right, if you guys can, please like and subscribe to the channel, donate to the PayPal to help the research. You can always use the thanks button underneath the video, or you can purchase some merchandise to help promote the channel. Anyways, thank you everyone for listening. Be safe. Take care out there. God bless everyone.